federal money would soon run out and cost the city tens of thousands of jobs. In Harlem, the need for those jobs was critical. The unemployment rate had reached 50%.
Here was a whole community where I remember someone saying once, where a dollar was a dollar, and black people didn't have any.
The community's shopping area was 125th Street. The stores there sold everything from furniture to groceries, to practically everything. But the stores there were all owned by whites, and they also, their staff, sales staff, and the whole visible staff was all white.
The pattern of segregation in New York was as rigid as the pattern of segregation in any part of the Deep South.
As the Depression wore on, the black community increased demands on local store owners to hire Harlem residents.
Why should all the white people come in here, get those jobs, and then go home and take the money out of Harlem? This gave rise to a slogan, "Don't buy where you can't work."
The Don't Buy Where You Can't Work campaign drew participants from church, civic, and black nationalist groups. A young minister, Adam Clayton Powell Jr., managed for a time to unify the movement.
My father's nickname was Flaming Tongue, and he had heard that people in City Hall, in LaGuardia administration, were very wary of this minister up in Harlem, that he could arouse people. There was a great deal of mistrust by the LaGuardia people. What is Powell up to? And there was certainly mistrust on the part of my father. Why isn't City Hall dealing with this?
I had a little assignment, which was to go to a record shop with another girl. And we were to go in the record shop and say to the owner that we felt that he should hire blacks since we bought records. And it was at that moment, and I can almost feel it now, and he took to me and he said, "Why don't you go up to Spears? That's a furniture store up the street, because you can't take that furniture, but you people will steal all my records." Well, I came alive at that moment. And I tell you, he put something into me. We rushed back to Adam Powell. We told him what had happened. And he said, "Well, you're absolutely right." So they added more pickets to us. And we went back and really helped to put that man out of business.
Some merchants gave in to the demands. Others went to court. In October 1934, the picketing was ruled illegal. The hard-fought triumphs of the campaign quickly evaporated. Harlem's mistrust of City Hall continued to grow. That fall, 1 in every 7 families in New York City depended on relief. 1,200 new applications were processed daily.
We're 8 in a family and got a couple of pounds of macaroni, and we ate macaroni, and we ate macaroni. And we had 1 meatball. We had to divide it up. We really went around hungry, had headaches from not eating.
Money received from Washington and from the state capitol in Albany was not enough. LaGuardia was forced to levy new city taxes.
Every cent from this tax goes for direct relief. Food, clothing, rent, fuel for the unemployed of this city. The payers of this tax are contributors to a worthy cause. The dodgers and those who advocate dodging this tax are just cruel, selfish bread snatchers.
It was very exciting to be part of the new reform administration. For one thing, LaGuardia was an exciting person to work with. And for another thing, the things which he espoused and which he was doing and which he wanted were things that I felt were very much to the benefit of the community.
I think I can say that though our non-political, non-partisan government is still experimental, that experiment is working out. Among other things, the city is now caring for a total of 300,000 families on home and work relief. The present monthly cost is $17,750,000, including federal and state contributions. No city in the world in so brief a period of time has had to face a comparable problem. It has been met.
While LaGuardia sang the praises of his administration in New York, in Washington, the New Deal administration was drawing heavy fire.
The Treasury statement of December 15th shows that since Mr. Roosevelt became president, our national debt has increased over $2,900,000,000.
The New Deal is government from above. It is based on the proposition that the people cannot manage their own affairs and that a government bureaucracy must manage for them. We do not want to see these alphabetical bureaucratic agencies become permanent fixtures in our national political life.
New Deal is on. Get up, get up, get out, get into it.
Despite aggressive promotion of Roosevelt's plan to achieve recovery, the NRA was now under attack from all quarters.
Up and yelling it. On post to post, they're spelling it. NRA.
The NRA was blamed for driving up prices and driving down production, and for favoring big business.
I've been in the tire business for the last 10 years, and with the NRA, I'm worse off now than I've ever been.
The codes under NRA have had a tendency to build larger, the large companies operating in their fields, and have worked a terrible hardship upon the smaller competitors and upon the American consumer.
The NRA got also to be called the Negro Runaround. And that's what we found we had, that no matter how hard we worked, we came up with the least good job and with the least good pay.
In 1935, a poultry company in Brooklyn, New York, challenged NRA codes regulating hours and wages in their business. The Schechter brothers took their case all the way to the Supreme Court.
Unconstitutional. The Blue Eagle cries no more. Nearly 800 codes directed from Washington are suspended. The parked cars of thousands of NRA workers soon may be going away for good. The Supreme Court has spoken.
I've got the blues. I've got them NRA blues. Lord, I got them NRA blues.
When he took office, Roosevelt had said to the nation, "Together we cannot fail." But the NRA had failed. After 2 years of New Deal programs and billions spent, the Great Depression continued. Aboard the presidential train, Roosevelt met secretly with LaGuardia. The president was under attack for using public funds to carry out a personal vendetta against Robert Moses. Roosevelt agreed to end the feud. Within days, Washington released money for completion of the Triborough Bridge.
Oh, you make good when you make a promise. No
No, I'm not a doubting Thomas, but honey, are you making any money? That's all I want to know.
Here's this huge project. They're going to build the bridge to connect Harlem to Long Island and the Bronx. Huge project. People thought this would be a great boon to Harlem. Supply of jobs, money flowing into the community, and then to turn around and discover that the people running the Triborough Bridge project had no intention of hiring black workers. This a bridge which, on the Manhattan end of it, ended at 125th Street, right in the heart of Harlem.
There was discrimination in some of the PWA projects. There's some discrimination probably in all of them. The unions had a union shop, which meant that they would supply the labor and that they would restrict the employment to the members of the union. Many of the unions discriminated against blacks.
The disillusionment when that money didn't seem to find its way into the pockets of the people who needed it in Harlem was severe. And my father talked to LaGuardia and warned about difficulty of conditions, the frustrations, and how really the conditions were right for a major problem in Harlem to suddenly erupt.
Harlem's experience with the police added to the frustration. For years, residents had complained of police brutality. Most charges went unanswered or were dismissed. In the spring of 1935, tensions in the community came to a head.
There were rumors, and that's the way such things begin, that a black boy had been mistreated by the police, and then there was another that a woman had been hit. But before anyone knew it, thousands of people were in the streets, and there was this great upheaval and a real riot up and down the street.
In, I think it was Woolworths or Crest, one of those department stores, a kid whose name was Lino Rivera. They said that he had been caught stealing from the counter, and the manager and a couple of people had taken him down in the basement and beaten him to death. The crowd believed this, and they were mad. As I got to the corner of 7th Avenue and 125th Street, the crowd started surging up, breaking windows. There were just a few policemen, and they were trying to keep out of sight because this crowd was really on the rampage.
There was a Chinese laundry. And when he realized that it was the black people moving in, destroying all the stores and properties owned by the white people, trying to get them out of Harlem, he went out and put a sign in his window and said, "Me colored too."
That riot started around 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and it began to peter out around 3 a.m. But along around 2 a.m., I got a call from Jesse Battle down at the 28th Precinct, which was 123rd Street. He said they had found the boy.
I picked up a knife and put it in my pocket. The floor walker caught me. He put the knife back in its place, and then he started shoving me out the store. So I told him, all right, well, don't push me anymore. And he says to the other fellow, come on, let's take him down the cellar and beat the heck out of him. So after that, the police officers came, they took my name, and then they sent me home. At 2 a.m., they called for me again, and I didn't know anything of a riot or anything, but they thought that I was dead.
I have always felt that that riot was due to happen. Lino merely happened to be the trigger. But if he hadn't been there, we'd have had to invent something. There was going to be a riot because that was the temper of the community.
My father's word to LaGuardia was, I told you, this was coming. You've got to address this. You've got to come up here and do something about this. The money and the programs designed to combat the poverty of the Depression simply had not filtered through into Harlem to help the people.
riot marked the beginning of LaGuardia's real